thanks so much for joining me today. We're saying, using the term witch war for season 2 of Salem. What does a witch war entail? What does that mean?
Well, it's total warfare with witches on all sides. I mean, last season, in some sense, was the takeover from within of Puritan society by this witch, Mary Sibley, and her particular hive, as we called it. But now, having attained that position of power, she is discovering that there are fractures within her own group. So there is an internal war, potentially, between her and Mercy, who claims the right to herself be the leader of that hive because she's the one who killed the previous leader. There's Anne, who's kind of a rising power within it, who may turn out to be more powerful than any of them. And unbeknownst to them, there's a witch from a completely different realm who has sensed what they're doing and is coming to take it over. But it's also a reminder that this was a period when there was total war going on from all sides. We take for granted this was going to become America as we know it. It's not clear that it was. There was a war between the French and the English and the Indians, and over here a little pack of Dutch, and back down there some Spanish. So we wanted to actually turn that on its head and play that out with witches, a world that was going to be formed by war.
Well, within the context of the TV show, watching the first season, it seemed like in a lot of ways the Puritans, the witch hunters, were kind of right. I mean, the witches were evil and were trying to infiltrate their society. So heading into season 2, I mean, are there good witches? Are there witches that perhaps are on playing for the side of good? Or
Well, it depends what you mean by good, because you're saying that as if you assume that the Puritans represented good, when if you were not one of the right people in that Puritan world, you wouldn't have thought it was good. If you were a woman who was treated as a piece of property, or you were a slave, or as you'll see by the time we get to the middle episodes of this season, children who were forced to labor, you might not have been so sure that the Puritans were actually the side of good. One of the things Mary Sibley says to Anne Hale in this season is, she says, right in the first episode, she says, "The world, the flesh, and the devil are not arrayed like a Puritan in pure black and white, but instead in all shades of gray." And that's a radical idea, and it's a radical idea for the time. And if the Puritans have a problem, it's that they see things too black and white in a way. It doesn't mean that they're wrong about everything. They're right. There is perhaps evil around them. We pride ourselves in doing a story in which there is nobody who's all good and nobody who's all bad. And I think all of them have things that you might sympathize with. All of them have things you might hate or disagree with. I mean, my best parallel to that, in a funny way, and we often use that parallel when we're writing, is great stories about the mob, whether it's The Godfather or The Sopranos. There you are basically identifying with a criminal enterprise who you do become emotionally involved with and want to see who's going to succeed. And for that matter, if you look at Shakespeare plays, I mean, are any of these people good people? Are kings and queens good people? They make exciting stories, but most of them are pretty nasty.
I want to point out, this is coming from a guy that's wearing a gray hat. You're living it right now.
Not the black hat or the white hat.
Yeah,
you're right.
You're right down the middle. As far as witch culture and tactics and everything, well, first off, what's something through your research that just creeps you out a lot about the folklore of witches? What kind of strikes to your core the most?
Oh, look, there's so many aspects of it. I mean, one of the things that was really fascinating to me is I spent my whole life obsessed with monsters and different horror images. We've got a world of vampires and Frankenstein monsters and werewolves and zombies. There's only 2, call them supernatural images, that are universal, that there is no culture that has ever existed on Earth that they didn't believe in these 2 things. One is ghosts, the other is witches. That fact creeps me out, because if it was believed by every human being who pretty much ever walked the earth, then you got to feel like maybe there's something true to it. So we can make up all these other weird creatures that we like, but there's something that drills right down to the core of the world and what it means to be human in it and mortal in it, that we have this fear of witches and of the dead. And obviously, we like putting both of those into Salem.
Well, if you ended up being on the wrong side of an accuser, if you're going to go out as a witch, or at least accused as a witch, what is the interrogation tactic that would freak you out the most? Is it the dunking? Is it the pressing? What's the thing
there was an increased Mather last season at one point brandished what was called the pear of anguish, which was like a small thing that could be put into any possible orifice of your body, and then they would screw it until it came out and kind of break you up from within. I think that and probably being drawn and quartered would be the worst ones to me. Though burning is pretty bad, I guess.
Burning's pretty bad.
They're all pretty bad.
I won't lie. Like when I was watching the episode with
the burning's bad. And
burning's
of course,
bad.
They didn't actually burn anybody in Salem. We took a little historical license with that.
Yeah.
But I like with the burning is that if you were lucky, somebody would maybe bribe them to slip a sack around your neck filled with some gunpowder, so that when the heat started to rise, it would just blow your head off and you'd be dead in an instant. And that's if you were lucky.
I like that. Well, I mean, I don't like it, but that's cool. I mean, I gotta say, we're wrapping up, but I'm a big horror buff, but that pair of anguish thing that created a clenching moment.
Thank
I'm
you.
not afraid to admit it. That caused a clenching moment for me while I was watching it.
Excellent.
So.
Then I have succeeded.
Yes, you have succeeded. All right. Well, thank you so much. I look
pleasure.
forward to seeing the entirety
Great.
of the season 2 of The Witch.
Thank you.